Have you ever wondered how our grandparents managed to live richly, even on a tight budget? I often found myself pondering this, especially when reflecting on the wisdom and life of my dear grandma. From homemade delights to energy-efficient choices, her everyday actions painted a canvas of frugal living, which, to my surprise, didn't mean sacrificing joy or comfort. Dive into this journey with me as I unveil 20 frugal secrets to save money every day, inspired by the heartwarming lessons from my frugal grandma. Let's rediscover the timeless art of saving, one grandma secret at a time. 1. Homemade delights. In the cozy kitchen of my grandmother's home, the aroma of homemade dishes would often fill the air. She had this philosophy that cooking from scratch was not only healthier but also more economical. Instead of the convenience of frequent trips to restaurants or opting for processed foods, she took the extra time to visit local markets. There, she'd select the freshest ingredients, often chatting with the sellers to ensure she was getting the best deal and quality. This personal touch to her shopping also kept her in touch with the community, understanding the seasonality and origins of her food. 2. Use it all. Speaking of waste, or rather the lack of it, Grandma had a knack for using everything to its fullest potential. I recall watching her squeeze out the last drop of toothpaste, ensuring that not a smidge went to waste. And those vegetable peels that most of us mindlessly toss into the trash. They had a second life in her garden as compost, turning what many consider as waste into nourishment for her plants. It's as if the very word waste wasn't in her vocabulary. 3. Thrifty threads. And oh, her wardrobe! It was like stepping into a history lesson with styles spanning decades. Instead of splurging on the latest fashion or impulsively buying clothes, she had an almost magical touch when it came to mending and altering outfits. An old dress could be upcycled into a trendy skirt, and a torn shirt might find new life as a quilt patch or even a stylish scarf. This not only showcased her creativity, but also emphasized sustainability long before it became a buzzword. 4. Barter and exchange. One of the most intriguing aspects of her life was her knack for bartering and exchanging. While today's digital age has made many of us accustomed to instant shopping gratification, Grandma's era was all about community. If she had an excess of tomatoes in her garden, she might trade them for some fresh eggs from a neighbor. This system of mutual benefit ensured that resources were always put to the best use, strengthening community bonds in the process. 5. Clever with coupons. Coupons! Every Sunday, like clockwork, she'd sit down with a cup of tea and the local newspaper, methodically cutting out coupons. She had this elaborate system, sorting them in an envelope, with each categorized perfectly, and she always knew when and how to use them to get the maximum discount. It wasn't just about saving a few cents here and there. It was a game, a challenge, and she played it masterfully. 6. Natural cleaners. When it came to cleaning, her kitchen cupboard looked more like a pantry. Instead of rows of chemical cleaners, she'd swear by the cleaning prowess of vinegar, baking soda, and lemon. These natural ingredients, which cost just a fraction of store-bought cleaners, were her go-to for everything. From scrubbing stains off clothes to leaving the windows sparkling, her holy trinity was proof that nature often offers the best solutions. 7. Garden gold. I used to joke that her backyard was like stepping into the Garden of Eden. It was always lush, blooming, and buzzing with life. Rows of vegetables, fruits, and herbs meant that grocery trips were minimal. This garden not only provided fresh produce daily, but also served as her sanctuary, a place of peace and connection with nature. 8. DIY crafts. Grandma's creativity wasn't limited to her garden or kitchen. I remember cozy winter evenings with her knitting mittens for all the grandkids or crafting homemade holiday decorations. These DIY crafts were filled with love and personality, making them far more special than any store-bought item. 9. Energy efficiency. She also had an uncanny focus on energy efficiency. While many of us might take energy consumption lightly, she was acutely aware of every watt and drop. She'd often keep the curtains open to make the most of natural lighting during the day, and during the rains, she had a setup to collect rainwater for the garden. It was her way of respecting resources and ensuring a smaller ecological footprint. 10. Shopping trips. They were few and far between, but when she did shop, it was a sight to behold. Cartloads of non-perishable items, all bought in bulk. From grains to spices, buying in larger quantities meant fewer trips, less packaging, and most importantly, long-term savings. 11. Public transit over personal cars. When it came to transportation, Grandma was a firm believer in the adage that the best things in life are often the simplest. Rather than splurging on and maintaining a pricey vehicle, she frequently opted for walking or public transportation. I remember our delightful walks to the local market, where she'd chat with neighbors along the way, turning every trip into a social event. And for longer distances, the local bus or train was her ride of choice, emphasizing the importance of community and shared resources. 12. Simple pleasures. Entertainment for her didn't mean extravagant vacations or the latest gadgets. Instead, she found joy in life's simple pleasures. A sunny day was perfect for a picnic in the park with a basket full of homemade treats. Evenings were reserved for board game nights where everyone, from the youngest to the oldest, would gather around the table in friendly competition. And on quiet afternoons, she'd often be found immersed in a book, traveling to distant lands through the magic of words. 13. Reuse, recycle, repurpose. In today's age of disposability, Grandma was ahead of her time with her approach to reuse, recycle, and repurpose. An empty jam jar could become a vase for fresh flowers, old newspapers might be turned into wrapping paper, and a broken chair, well, with a bit of creativity, it could be transformed into a charming garden bench. For her, every item had potential. It was just a matter of seeing it. 14. Less is more. Clutter was a foreign concept in her home. The spaces were always airy, with everything having its place. If an item wasn't in use or had lost its purpose, she believed in passing it on. Selling or donating unwanted items ensured they found a new home rather than gathering dust in hers. 15. Hand-me-downs. I often marveled at how her home seemed like a mini-time capsule when it came to clothing. Instead of buying new outfits for every occasion or growth spurt, she'd carefully pull out a trunk filled with clothes passed down from older siblings or cousins. These hand-me-downs, rich in history and love, saved money and reduced the constant demand for fast fashion. 16. Frugal fests. Celebrations in her home were a grand affair, not in expense but in emotions. Instead of store-bought cakes, she'd bake a delicious treat from scratch. Gifts were often DIY, crafted with personal touches that made them all the more special. And the best part, the community potlucks, where everyone would bring a dish, creating a feast fit for kings. 17. Liquid gold. Whenever she cooked, leftovers were treated as liquid gold. Broth, sauces, or even the last ladle of soup would be carefully frozen, ready to be the base for a future meal. This ensured minimal waste and maximum utility. 18. Avoid debt. One of the strongest principles she lived by was to avoid debt. Her mantra, "If you can't pay for it now, you don't need it," was a testament to living within one's means. She treated credit with caution, viewing it not as an extension of her finances but as a tool to be used judiciously. 19. Monthly budget. Her financial wisdom didn't stop there. Each month, with an old ledger and pen in hand, she'd meticulously note down every expense, no matter how small. This practice ensured she always lived within her means, avoiding any unpleasant financial surprises. 20. Value of time. And perhaps the most valuable lesson of them all was her perspective on time. She often remarked, "Time is money." Instead of seeking instant gratification or quick fixes, she'd invest time in researching, learning, and implementing methods that were both cost-effective and long-lasting. Through her habits and philosophies, Grandma not only saved money, but also taught us the value of resourcefulness, creativity, and gratitude. Her frugal ways were not just about penny pinching, but about living a life full of purpose and value.